What if you could find brand new worlds right here on Earth, where anything is possible? Same planet, different dimension. I found the gateway.
The Rewatch podcast presents the Sliders Rewatch, dedicated to the series Sliders on Fox and Sci-Fi Channel. Join us each week as we continue crossing the Einstein-Rosen-Podolsky Bridge and find ourselves in strange new worlds. Email your thoughts on each episode to the rewatchpodcast@gmail.com. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/rewatchpodcast or on Twitter @rewatchpod.
Welcome back to the Rewatch podcast and our Sliders Rewatch. I'm Cory.
And I did not have podcast relations with that woman.
Are you sure?
I'm positive. We talked. We did not record.
I don't know. I've got sophisticated voice technician equipment here, and it's going off the radar saying that you're just full of it.
Damn it.
I'm on to you. All right. Well, thank you for joining us, everybody. We are here, of course, discussing 2 more episodes of Sliders, and this week it is A Current Affair and the Java Jive.
Mm-hmm. Neither of which our predictions came true, I don't think.
No, actually, I predicted that the Java Jive was going to be about illegal coffee smuggling in a 1950s setting, so
there you go.
I was pretty damn close.
There you go. Totally off on Current Affair.
Yes, definitely. All right, so let's get into our first episode discussion. The episode is A Current Affair, written by Steven Stollier and directed by David R. Eagle. This originally aired on July 30th of 1999.
How many people can say they just ran into the President of the United States?
Please, I just want to forget it happened.
Not much chance of that.
What? Give me that.
How did they put the paper out so fast?
We've only been here for a few hours.
It's not just the paper.
If you're just joining us, we're bringing you continuing coverage of the president's apparent extramarital affair.
Oh, give me a break.
Our resident psychologist has tentatively diagnosed the president as having a sexual addiction.
Remy.
And it has been confirmed that President Williams has been seeing the young woman.
Not known how long the romance has been going on, but inside
our unseasonably hot and steamy weather forecast.
Leave it there.
But first, more on the president's hot and steamy affair.
Oh!
I think you and the prayers make a pretty cute couple, if you ask me.
I didn't ask you.
Our sliders arrive and are literally thrust into a political scandal as Maggie gets tripped up and falls into the arms of President Jefferson Williams of the United States. We quickly learn that this world is obsessed with tabloid-style reporting, eschewing actual news. All the news outlets immediately begin theorizing on who Maggie is and whether or not this married president has a girlfriend on the side. Maggie needs some time alone after dealing with too many fans of hers, but is abducted by the Secret Service and asked by the president and his wife and their advisor to play along with the girlfriend storyline in order to help distract from a war going on in Switzerland. She agrees, but after a few staged pictures are taken, she is not allowed to leave, as the advisor says her services are still needed. Meanwhile, Mallory has sought out help to find Maggie from the only local source of real news, reporter/journalist Bobby Hawks. After seeing Maggie dressed as a maid, a ruse she used to escape her captors, she is dragged away again. The Sliders and Hawks realize what has been happening and fight fire with fire by faking photos of Maggie's apparent murder and releasing them to the news outlets. This causes the president and company to hold a press conference to clear up that Maggie is not dead, but then allows Maggie to grab the mic and explain how the whole affair was a setup. Hawks takes the mic, beginning to reveal the truth about the government's plan to release an illegal toxin on Switzerland while the president escapes amidst the confusion of our sliders sliding away.
Oh, come on, guys. I'm going stir crazy here.
We have a report coming in from Tony Jacobs on the scene in Pacoima. White House sources have released the name of the president's alleged mystery woman. She is evidently a Maggie Beckett, and she lives here in the Southland at the Cajero Mobile Home Park and Campground.
Yes, Anne. I'm here in Pacoima at the address we were given just moments ago.
Oh, give me a break. What do you want? Just some kind of contest?
I'm Tony Jacobs of GNN. Are you Maggie Beckett?
Do I have to buy any magazines?
No, ma'am. The White House has named you as the woman currently having an affair with President Williams.
The what house? Martha Lou, put that dog down. I know, honey, but he don't like the hat. I'm sorry, now what's this about the president?
We had some information that you might be the person having an illicit affair with the president, but obviously you're not the right Maggie Beckett. This is Tony Jacobs in Pacoima sending it back to you at GNN Central.
Wait a minute. How the hell do you know I'm not seeing him? It's not like I can't get myself any dates, right?
I'm sorry, ma'am.
Hey, come back here. You want a story? Hey, mister, I'll give you a story. I said put that damn dog down! Give me a break.
All right, so we have a few points of trivia.
Originally, the newspaper, instead of saying that the president's girlfriend has been discovered, or asking the question, does the president have a girlfriend? It was going to say, president's secret affair revealed. Like it was a big scandal. You know, like they already knew about it and now they just finally have proof. So a little bit different there. They were originally going to have a green screen in the room with Maggie and the president to take pictures with. And so they positioned them in front of the green screen. And Maggie is like, why is there this big green screen? And the aide, that guy, Pearson, I think his name is, he says, oh, the green screen's just because it makes for a sharper picture. You know, I'm like, that's dumb. Like, would Maggie really, like, come on. Surely she must know something about that, or it's, you know?
Yeah, who doesn't know what a green screen is?
Exactly. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that was a little changed. I'm glad they changed that. When Pearson and the president's wife have their little moment about how they need to watch Maggie, you know, because she's like too smart. Originally, that was going to happen while they were taking the pictures. The president's wife and Pearson were going to sneak behind the green screen and have that conversation. Okay. And Maggie was still out there, obviously. And they have that conversation. They whisper. She doesn't hear it, but then they sort of peek their heads out around the corner and look at Maggie, and they both smile at her and like very creepily, you know, and like she looks at him and like sort of smiles back. You know, it's like a very typical like cheesy thing to do when you know something's up, but you don't know what, you know. It's like that was just, I don't know why they had to put that. It just seems so like stereotypical to have that in there. You
and
know?
why have that scene while the president's in the room? You know, even if they are just behind a green screen, which is a thin bit of fabric, really.
Yeah, it's like the evil villains. You know, it's like, let's hide behind here and talk about our evil plan, and then we'll smile at her. You know, yeah, it was a good thing they got rid of that. They changed the way they did that. So when they were zooming in on the picture in Bobby Hawk's office, since they were using green screen, when they zoomed in, there was a little bit more dialogue about zooming in and whatnot. And they could actually see green outlines when they zoomed in where they were cutting and pasting. And Hawk says that he does this a lot on the official photos that the president releases to see if there's any other secrets in there. So that's why he was able to zoom in so good, because that's what he does normally. He has the technology to do that.
Instead, they go with this whole like raster image thing, trying to like overly explain it.
Exactly. Exactly. And then, originally on the TV, when they discover the maid is shot, the TV was on. Barry Lipschitz was actually supposed to be on the TV in the background. So that was a nice little touch that they could have put in there. You know?
Your theory could have like almost,
I know,
like kind of got in there. You said like it could have been like a Barry Lipschitz all over. So
exactly, like, so close.
Tangentially, you were so close.
Yes, this episode was written by the same guy who wrote Paradise Lost with the animal-human hybrids. So, like, it kind of gives you a little bit like, oh, you know, a little bit of a cringe when you think about that. But the whole thing was with this script was not totally torn apart and rewritten and changed around while they were shooting, so this gives you a much better idea of actually what Steven Stoliar can actually do as a writer. He's actually not bad. He's not bad as you would think if you based it just on Paradise Lost. So it was good. He was thinking this idea is more like Sliders does the Lewinsky trial or the Lewinsky scandal.
It's very, it's pretty overt, really, when you watch it.
Oh,
I know what you're going for here.
Exactly. Yeah. Especially at the end there with like my introduction, it's like, we get where that came from. So. Yeah. Something that I didn't notice, but I'll probably go back and take a look at the, I guess at the end scene there, they didn't have enough extras to fill that hotel scene up. So they shot it 4 times with the extras they had, and they combined the shots later. I'm like, wow, there's a cost-cutting measure right there. I didn't know that, and I think I have to go back and check that out just to see, how they did that.
From every angle, it's the same group of extras.
Exactly. Exactly. And then also this the last bit here is just the set that they were using in here. It was not the Chandler. It was they used the Chandler, but they had some other scenes in here that were not from the Chandler. It was a leftover set from a Columbia movie that was nearby on the lot, and they got to use that set from Columbo movie. It was a leftover set from the Columbo movie.
Right.
That's autocorrect, killing me again. So it's like they used the set from the Columbo movie, but did it really look that much different than the Chandler? Because to me, I didn't even know until we got this bit of trivia from iReactions and Keith Dameron. I was like, well, I guess. Cool, you got another hotel room. Excellent,
Yeah, it looks like the same generic hotel.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, well, I guess we have time. Let's fit in a quick impression.
Alrighty.
All right, cue the music.
Arturo and Alan Rickman walk down the street. Hopefully this whole thing will just blow over. Would just love to have a couple of days in a normal world doing normal stuff.
I can't believe how expensive everything is here.
Bobcat Goldthwait approaches them. Can I help you?
Aren't you the president's mystery man?
The whole thing was a big mistake. Kermit the Frog interrupts. Oh yeah, this is a big mistake, all right. Breaking up a happy marriage. I'm not having an affair with the president.
Can you autograph my newspaper? Right on the picture of you and the president.
I'm going back to the hotel. And scene. I like it.
Well, Nathan and I have been doing the Police Academy rewatch.
Yes, I was wondering where this voice came from. And then as you were doing it, I was like, that's right, he was in the Police Academy movies. Okay.
So I
see the connection.
Why not? Yes. I've been doing the impression over there, so why not throw it in here as well?
Nicely done. Nicely done. Now we need to get a quick impression with Bobcat and Candyman there, side by side. Let's test your vocal cords.
Yeah, let's do that. Maybe next week.
Let me go! Mr. President, please. You're a reasonable man. Help me out here.
I'd like to, Maggie, but I'm sorry. This thing is out of my hands.
How can that be? You're the president. Can't you see that the best thing for you to do would be to come clean about this whole setup? The American public can be very forgiving if you just tell them the truth.
The truth? That's a new one. I'm sorry. If there were any way around this...
We can't have her running around town telling everybody about our little project.
What project? What else are you trying to cover up?
Well, Chuck, isn't there any way we could handle this without...
Jeff, it is either this little whistleblowing tramp or you. That is the menu, honey. Pure and simple. Oh, you knew going into this you were going to have to make compromises.
Well, compromises are one thing, but murder...
The maid.
Lose the girl, Jeff. Or spend the rest of your presidency in disgrace. Possibly impeached. And I have no intention of remaining married to an impeached president. I can guarantee you that.
Look, you may be many things, but I can't believe that you're a murderer. Think about it.
The news shows are gonna have a field day when they find my body, and everybody's gonna think that you murdered your mistress. Impeachment, nothing. They'll put you in prison.
What makes you think anybody's gonna find the body? Your taxpayer dollars at work.
All right, so let's get into our discussion of a current affair.
All right, so I gotta say this right off the bat, because this seemed odd to me, and I wasn't sure if she was just joking, or when I think back about it, like, she really doesn't know. Remy says something like, maybe this is a world where my double's really popular, you know? And Maggie says something to the effect of like, yeah, right. And I'm like, does she not know that he actually was a very big deal on that, at least that one world? And like, you know, on Earth Prime, he was popular back in the day. I don't think she's ever had a chance to really see him be popular or sing, has she?
I'm sure she's seen him sing before, right? She has to have. He doesn't do it a lot these days, but
yeah,
come on.
I just don't remember it in the actual like series, you know, like I don't remember seeing that actually happen, like, you know, in canon. Like I'm sure we could argue that there were worlds where he must have sang and she was there, but we haven't actually seen it on screen though. I don't think, have we? I don't think he sung for a long time.
I mean, you think they would have got to know each other a bit, sort of just talked about their lives.
You'd
at
think.
the very least. So, you know, he could have mentioned that, yeah, on his world, he did have some gold records and stuff.
Right.
You know, he wasn't huge, but he, you know, he references that time, the King is Back world, where he was huge. So, I don't know. It's been a while since Remy's done that kind of thing, you know, that.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Maybe I'm big on this world kind of thing. So, I don't know. It was kind of a throwaway. But yeah, it was a bit weird that Maggie was just like, yeah, right, whatever.
Like, that would have been better for, like, Diana or Mallory, who doesn't really know him that well. You know, for her, I was just like, well, that's a little, like, maybe she's joking. It just seemed a little bit of that mean-spirited type of Sliders humor that we had before. Like, the professor falling into thorns or garbage, and they're just laughing, and, all right, see you later, prof, you know?
Or maybe they're just setting us up because Remy's going to be singing in the next episode.
Exactly. That could be. That could be.
Just reminding us that he is a singer.
By the way, guys, don't forget, we know we haven't dealt with it in a while, but he is a musician.
So anyway, yeah, they are approaching a big crowd, and that's why that sort of came up.
Yeah.
And it's because the president is in town. It's President Williams.
You know, his name is a takeoff on Clinton even, because it was William Jefferson Clinton. And so now we have President Jefferson Williams.
There you go. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I remember that, like, right away. I think iReaction sent that as well as part of the trivia, and I was like, oh, I knew that one when I was watching the episode. I was like, oh, I see what they did there.
Yeah. No, that's a good catch.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's a bit of a weird encounter, but they set it up pretty quickly because he gets, like, asked a cheesy tabloid question about sleeping in the nude. Or something, and he's just like, no, I don't think Mrs. Williams would be happy about you knowing about that. And blah. But then he's asked like a real pressing issue about this war in Switzerland. And that's when he's like, oh, you know, I can't hear you. Speak up. I gotta go.
Exactly. Sorry.
So yeah, so it's an interesting setup, I think. You know, it kind of sort of gets you into where they're going pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, and you definitely understand. You start to understand really quickly what this world is all about.
Exactly. So the Sliders come over and they're there and they're shaking the president's hand and all that. And Maggie sort of gets knocked over into his arms, like falls onto him, and they just have like a bit of a smile and a how funny that happened kind of thing. And then like immediately it's like all over the tabloids and the news and everything. The president's secret lover, and people are approaching Maggie in the street and she's getting annoyed by the whole thing. But it's like really huge really quickly.
Right.
So yeah, it's an interesting idea of this like cheesy tabloid sort of world that, you know, it's like everybody's just so gullible about everything.
Well, yeah, and it takes like, you know, it kind of does mirror real life, like our real life. You know, you got the shows like TMZ and whatnot, you know, where it's like just gossip all over the place. And like you watch that TMZ, which I used back in the day, I would catch it like here and there, just, you know, cause I was flipping through channels and they're all standing around the bullpen, you know, and they're talking about how they're going to get this secret and that secret. And it's like, oh, I saw this guy with this girl. And like, it's like all hard hitting. And it's like, it's just gossip, you know, it's just gossip. So it's like that to the extreme. You know, I like it.
Yeah, and you know, again, it's the kind of thing where you're like, okay, they're going with something that's relevant. And it's still, like, really relevant today.
Yeah.
Sometimes even more so, because the world today is just full of junk news, you know? Celebrities who are non-celebrities and...
Yes.
You know, people just doing crazy things that don't matter. And you're just like, this is garbage. Like, just pay it no attention. But people... I don't know, I guess it sells somehow because, like, most people actually do pay attention to it.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's still pretty relevant to this day, but, you know, they're in the hotel room and Mallory finds, like, what they call the rag newspapers, and that actually has proper news in it.
Right.
It's the Hawks Report written by Bobby Hawks, and it is proper news.
He's based on Matt Drudge in real life. Who's the guy? He's the guy who revealing the whole Lewinsky scandal. You know, like he started that whole thing. And Matt Drudge is a famous, like you've heard of him, I'm sure, right?
No, honestly, like I know kind of like the baseline of, you know, the Clinton Lewinsky scandal, but I don't really know like the hard hitting journalist players of the whole story or anything.
He's basically like a big political commentator. He started off back in the day as like it was like a email that he used to put out or something like that, or I think it was on a news group originally, then it went to an email or something, and it was just like it didn't start off as political commentary, but that's what he eventually shifted into, and it became really popular and still pretty popular today. So a big name in the politicians' world.
But he kind of like broke that.
Yeah, he broke
Lewinsky
that story.
Like the Woodward and Bernstein of the Lewinsky scandal.
There you go. There you go. The Lois and Clark of to drop a little, you know.
Right. So that's that's him, and Mallory's like pretty interested in this guy. He wants to track this guy down to find out the real go in this world because they figure this guy knows what the deal is and he will give it to them straight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the meantime, we actually cut to the president. He's there with his wife and his advisor, Pearson, and they actually decide that they're going to use this non-scandal as a mask for their involvement in the war in Switzerland.
Exactly.
Because as, like, Hawks lays out to Mallory, is that pretty much the president has sent in troops to Switzerland, but there's been no declaration of war or anything like that. It's pretty much like what happened, like, after 9/11, right? Like, Bush sent troops into Iraq, but there was actually no formal declaration of war. It's that kind of situation. But this is pre-9/11.
Maybe this is where Bush got the idea.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, he's been watching Sliders.
He was a big Sliders fan. He's like, well, they did it there. Let's do that. Can we do that? That sounds like Ross Perot. I don't know.
But the theory is that America is actually losing this war.
Yes.
And that they're going to go ahead and use some chemical weapon or something like that. So this scandal breaking out is a good way to sort of keep people's attention away from what they're actually doing. So the president and Pearson and everything, like, they decide that they're going to go with it. Let's just let it play out. Let's not confirm anything, but let's not deny it either.
Right.
So, yeah, it's an interesting way to look at it. It's interesting because it's the president, and, like, the president has advisors. Of course the president has advisors.
Yep.
And he's going to listen to his wife as well, who turns out to be lying, cheating bitch.
To put it mildly.
But they're not actually working in the president's best interests. So it's interesting from the standpoint that he's like the most powerful person in the world, but all these people around him aren't working for his best interests. All the best interests of the people.
No, I agree.
Yeah. And then that kind of comes to light because they pretty much kidnap Maggie.
Yes, they do.
They sort of they start by asking her, let's at least ask her and see if she'll come with us. But she's like, no, I'm not going to do that. So they just drag her off. And tell her that she has to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you feel about like all this stuff with like Maggie and the president and sort of trying to get all that worked out?
No, it's definitely a good idea. Distract from the war. This is a good way to do it for this whole society. And I think it was good. Maggie was like, nah, it's okay. I'll pass. And they're like, no, you're going to have to do it. And then the president has to like talk to her and say, well, this is why it's important. We could really use your help. And she's like, well, okay. Like he's laying on the Clinton charm, and Maggie's like, okay, fine. I'll help you with this, da, da, da. And then like she thinks she's done, but nope, she has to stay. They make her stay. Not the president, the advisor. Says, you can't leave yet. We need you for more.
And what about those 1999 photoshopping skills?
Those are really good. He's really good with the Photoshop. Oh, yeah.
I thought it was really weird Because they take the pictures, they're having dinner, and then let's get some on the couch and stuff like that. And then they go to do the Photoshop, and the first one is at the table, but they're going to have them in like a French or Italian setting or something like that.
Right.
And they start by like putting the body sitting down, and then they put the head on.
Yes.
And I was like, why wouldn't you just like cut the whole image on and stick it on?
Exactly.
But then they go to the next picture of them drinking wine, and they actually put like some naked bodies in a hot tub and put the heads on, and then they have that black bar across Maggie's boobs, which I thought was hilarious. It was a great touch. But I'm like, why did you take the pictures on the couch of them drinking wine or champagne and then use just completely different bodies and put their heads on it? Like,
exactly.
It was just, it kind of didn't make sense, this making of the photoshopped images. It was just a bit strange. But then our sliders figure out where Maggie is because of this reflection in the champagne glass. And I was like, it's not their bodies though. Like, where did they get the pictures of these shirtless and naked bodies, but still use the image of the champagne glass? Like,
exactly.
It was weird. It didn't work, really.
Well, it uses that whole old trope of like, let's enhance the picture, on like all the crime dramas when they enhance the picture and they can zoom in so far and it gets so clear, and they try to explain it, but I work a little bit with like graphics and things like that, but I thought that when you raster an image, I thought that was sort of like making it so that you couldn't like it was a little bit lesser quality because you're flattening it or something like that. You're taking the image, and I'm not sure the term, but I thought like an unrasterized image would have more information than a rasterized, and that. So when they started zooming in, I was like, well, that's odd. I thought, maybe I just don't understand the details of raster versus unraster.
Yeah, I don't know, because they were like, oh, this whole image has been rasterized.
Right.
I could blow it up like 1,000,000 times, and we would never lose any pixel or whatever.
Right.
And I was like, okay, is this more just an explanation to why they can so clearly zoom in on that champagne glass and figure out that it's the reflection of the matchbook from the Ambassador Hotel? Or what?
Yeah,
like,
I think that's
I don't
why
know.
they're doing
Yeah,
it.
they just explained it for a good 45 seconds.
It was, they
like they
didn't
went
have to.
right into like the quality of this image, and I'm just like, this is crazy. Like, you could just say I zoomed in on it and found it. It's a bit unplausible, but whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, because when they started saying rasterize and all that, it made me start to think, because when I've used Photoshop and there's been images where it says you have to rasterize this layer before you, apply this image or whatever, this effect. And it just made me think, well, Now, so it took me out a little bit because I had to actually start thinking about it and wondering, wait, does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense. If they had just said I was zoomed in, I wouldn't have given it a second thought. I'd just been like, oh, they're enhancing again, just like normal.
But then, of course, we get this whole thing about the president's wife is the one who's actually having the affair.
Yes.
Because, there was this weird scene where Maggie sort of like jokes with the president's wife about how she must be uncomfortable with this.
Right.
And she's like laughing it off like, oh, you're not really having an affair with my husband, though, and blah, blah. And then it's just like, but she's actually having an affair with the advisor guy. Pearson.
Exactly.
She calls him Chuck.
Chuck.
Which is just a smarmy name, too.
Yes.
So, yeah, I don't know. And then that really just goes nowhere. Like, we don't really get anything with, like, what happened to Chuck and the president's wife. Like, did the president ever find out about that? And then what happened with the president afterward? He kind of just walked away, and you're like, whatever.
Realistically, they would not have left the podium, like they did. Like, they wouldn't have just, like, left. Because they would have tried to cover this up somehow right there, I think. It just seems like they run off and that's it. Yeah. Are there any consequences for, any of them? I don't think the president finds out about the affair, but what are the effects now of the world going forward? Because does the press even really care now about what Hawk said? Because apparently on the front page is just the sliders sliding out. That's like the big story, not the president thing. It's the big story, the sliders from another dimension, visitors from another dimension. So are there any consequences for the president? I don't know if there actually are.
Exactly. I mean, that's what they set up the whole time, is that the presidency is a big farce and there's this war going on and America is going to kill innocent people in Switzerland. Like, we get no resolution to this whatsoever. And it is just, why wouldn't the big news be, hey, interdimensional travelers? Like, That is big news. Like, I'd be more interested in reading about that than I would the president's maybe having an affair.
Well, it reinforces this world's, focus. I guess we can assume that maybe, someone does check into the story and he gets impeached or whatever. But yeah, it enforces the world. So the world is built really good, I think. You get a good sense of what everything is all about here.
The other thing I love too, this cracked me up, is that Maggie's being held captive in this hotel room, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then a maid comes in.
Yes.
And she's like, oh my God, you're the president's girlfriend and stuff. Blah, blah. And not for an instant did I not think, like, Maggie's just going to swap out with this woman.
Exactly.
But then they come in and they shoot the maid who was swapped out with Maggie, right?
Right.
And then I just started thinking, so they locked Maggie in this room, sent a maid over to, bring more towels and clean up?
Right.
Before they murdered someone? Like,
right.
Why? Why
Exactly.
did that maid go in that room at all?
Yeah, well, it's her normal rounds, I guess. I mean...
It's rented, I guess, by the president or the president's officers. They could have just told her to piss off. I don't care if this room's on your out. Go away.
Right,
We're
do
about
not
to
disturb.
murder somebody in here. Like, we don't need someone sniffing around.
Exactly.
It's just completely implausible.
No, it is. And the thing that I thought was weird, and this is an example, we talked about how in this season they start to pad the script with extra scenes that really don't mean anything, or things like they repeat things from earlier. This whole maid thing here, when Maggie, after she switches clothes, she goes and sees the sliders in the bar and they drag her away. The president's men find her and drag her away.
Yeah.
The sliders saw her dressed as a maid. They run outside and she's gone. And Diana picks up this thing on the ground. She's like, what is this? And was it Mallory saying something, or maybe it was Remy? He says, looks like one of those caps that maids wear. But why was she dressed as a maid? It's like, what? You just saw her dressed as a maid. That's a cap for a maid. Like, why is this even a discussion? It's like, come on. You didn't need this scene. You saw she got dragged away. You go chase her. What does it matter if she was dressed as a maid or not? It's just an extra scene so they can fill up time.
It's padding it out in the first place anyway, because she escapes from the room as the maid, goes back to the hotel, where she is immediately captured again.
Right.
So you're just like, why did she escape in the first place? Why couldn't we just go from A to B? She's in the hotel room, and then they take her to the president. You had to throw in this whole thing about a murder. But because then when she's there with the president, she says, you can't kill me, because they'll just be like, you killed me.
Right.
It comes out that I'm your secret lover, and then I end up dead. And he's like, oh yeah, you're right. And then our sliders use that against them by sending out these fake pictures of her murder. And they're like, oh my God, we can't have the public thinking that you're dead. We better bring you out to prove that you're not dead. This is exactly what would have happened if you did kill her 20 minutes ago.
Right.
Just padding it out. It's just so implausible.
Yes.
Yeah. I've been this frustrated before by an episode. Just about how nonsensical the whole thing is.
I agree. It is nonsensical. However, I didn't mind this episode. I actually thought it was all right, not bad. I'd probably watch it again. This is one that I'm not like terribly disappointed in.
Oh yeah. It's not. I think this is our go-to, but it's not worm crap level by any means.
Right.
Like it was fine. The story, the time, 99. This is a post Lewinsky thing, so let's sort of relate to that.
Exactly.
It's in the mindset of the people, so it was fine for what it was. But yeah, we're here talking about it in its entirety, and when you look deeper into it, it just makes no sense. So
exactly,
you're just like, oh my God, why? And then they slide out in front of everybody, and you have to think like, why didn't they just leave the stage? Just go out the back and do that. Why sort of expose all this stuff, get it into the headlines, which was the focus of your whole thing. Like, you wanted to stop the people reporting on the trash news, and you wanted people to take news seriously, but then you immediately trump that by opening an interdimensional vortex in front of everybody and sliding out. Seems counterproductive to what you were aiming for here.
If this episode had come out like in season 1 or 2, I think they would have like snuck off to the side, and they would have slid out, and they probably would have ended with scenes of more people asking Bobby Hawks questions and like making it clear that someone's going to be held accountable. I think that's how it would have been, because it would have made more of a social impact, or an impact on that world, than just sliding out.
But it's like you said, like, by no means was it like a really terrible episode. It was fine for what it was, and you're right, I actually did kind of enjoy watching it too, but just really sort of getting into the full details of it, it kind of just frustrates me how nonsensical it was. And yeah, they're padding things out again, so what can you do?
Right.
And now it's time for another episode of You Said What Now? With Mallory.
You ever break out of a meat locker before?
Broke into one once.
This has been another episode of You Said What Now? With Mallory. Alright, so let's get into our second episode discussion today. The episode is The Java Jive.
Or as I like to call it, my version of NyQuil.
Written by Jennifer McGinnis and Janet Saunders, who I don't believe we've ever seen before. A couple of freelancers here.
Those are new names. Yeah.
And directed by Jeff Woolnough. And this originally aired August 6th of 1999.
Here's the key to the sugar box. I don't lock it up, I get stolen blind. Bring me 10 packets.
Right.
Oh, I've never seen people who love coffee so much.
Oh, this is nothing. You should go to Seattle sometime. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Be careful with these. I only give you 10 at a time. You owe me 50.
50 cents for sugar?
$50.
It must be really good sugar.
The best in town. $5 a packet, 10 packets, $50.
What's in the stuff, heroin?
Caffeine. Boy, you are out of touch. Haven't you heard of the Gephardt Act? You did know you're working in a speakeasy, didn't you?
We've been out of the country lately.
Canada.
That explains it. They're still drinking booze up there. Here, they took it away. Then our smokes, then our beef, our caffeinated coffee, all in the interest of the public health. As if we couldn't make those decisions ourselves. You have no idea how much I miss bacon.
So the caffeine is mixed with sugar?
Then the customer does the rest. Oh, I gotta get moving. I'm on in a minute.
Break a leg.
It's a living.
It's illegal.
Our sliders slide into the aftermath of a murder scene and meet singer Angie, the girlfriend of the murdered man, who was not just her piano player, but also an undercover cop, unbeknownst to Angie, trying to bust a crime ring bent on selling synthetic caffeine, something that has been banned in this world, as with alcohol, cigarettes, and red meat. They get jobs with Angie while waiting out their time to slide, but Diana gets a bad dose of caffeinated sugar, and they end up having to take her back to the piano man's home. While Angie goes to buy medicine for Diana, the sliders find that the piano man had actually discovered the name of the synth caffeine provider. Unfortunately, Angie gets kidnapped by Dropper Daddy, who also wants the name of the supplier so he can corner the market. Remy stages a rescue attempt, but both him and Mallory get caught. Diana and Maggie, along with Wells, the one good cop left in the town, stages a meeting with the supplier, taking him into custody and setting up a meeting with Dropper Daddy, with Diana taking the place of the supplier. A shootout takes place in which Wells is injured, but our gang manages to take down the bad guys with just enough time left to slide.
She's burning up. Let me see if I can find some ice. This guy must have ate out a lot. Here we go. Hello.
What is it?
Looks like the piano man was a cop. The Colombian connection is a guy called Medellin Max. He'll make the drop at the club at 4 a.m. Wednesday. Do I let Wells in on this or make the bust myself? And what about Brownie? 4 a.m. Wednesday.
That's tomorrow.
Medellin Max. Medellin Max. Wait a minute. That's the name that was on that note that fell out of Harrell's music book at the piano.
And what about Brownie?
You think Angie knew her guy was a cop?
Well, if she did, she didn't say anything about it. This Wells guy, wait a minute. Wasn't he the cop that we talked to on the street?
I think so.
Yeah, a bit more trivia on this one, too.
Yeah, so there were just some extra lines in the very beginning when, Brownie and Harold, the piano man, face each other off there in the alleyway. Nothing significant, really. A few extra lines. When they find the body, the piano man, whose name is Harold, which I just totally forgot what his name was until I got the trivia from iReactions. I was like, yeah, piano man is good enough. He's not that, big a character. He was going to actually still be alive when they found him, and he was going to look up at Angie and say something like, "I'm going to miss you, baby," and then, dies, that type of thing, Angie says, everyone loved him, like who could have, everyone was, loved Harold. And Mallory says in the episode, he goes, "Well, not everyone," which was kind of like a mean-spirited line. But in the script, he was supposed to be a little bit nicer. In the script, he was going to say, "Well, somebody was an enemy," which was a lot nicer way of putting it. It just seems odd they made Mallory just be kind of a dick.
Yes, he was such a great person. Well, obviously not.
Exactly. It's like, nah, It's like,
boyfriend
too bad.
scum.
Exactly. There was an extended scene with Angie asking Remy about playing the piano. It was a lot more lines there going back and forth. And the Sliders were saying, to Remy, "Well, we're going to be moving on in just a day or two here. We got to be in New York, so on, yada, yada." It was just a more convincing, trying to get Remy to play for her. And the Sliders saying, "Well, we kind of got to leave, There was a scene where Angie sings, just like in the episode, but she can't go, she doesn't feel like she can keep going because she's so distraught over the death of Piano Man. And so Remy actually takes over, he says, "Let's hear it for Angie." Da, 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 da. She goes off to take a break, and he starts jamming it out loud on the piano. And they're doing a fast jazz song, and that's when the dancers come out. And it probably would have been good if they had, time to do more music stuff, fun music stuff, not really relaxing music stuff.
Well, it's almost bordering on Back to the Future territory,
Exactly, yeah.
You're gonna bust out and trying to be good or something.
Exactly, yeah. That's how I was seeing it, because it was like he starts playing an upbeat piano jazz number or something. Remy and Mallory, they explain how they found Angie in the hotel. They gave sugar to a bum for a tip. So it was like a throwaway line. It's nothing major. We don't need to know how they found Angie. They have some skills. Remy eventually saves Angie, but then he has to go to the card game. The way we saw it, it was a little bit different. He saved Angie after the card game. So he saves Angie first, but then he realizes the guys are still there. They see him. So he goes over, he plays cards. He just tells Angie, "Stay put in the room. I'll be back and I'll figure this out. How I'm going to get you out."
Right.
So just a little bit more scene padding there, or script padding. We find Mallory when he gets caught by Brownie. He's sitting there in the car, and Brownie comes up and sees him, and Mallory's like, "Hey, did you get Angie?" Because he thinks it's Remy. And how'd you change clothes? It's like, "Oh, you're not the real Remy."
Whoops.
So, yeah, it's like, you're not so quick there, are you, Mallory? And then the finale, which this is really it's hard to explain because it's all action for the finale. Even in the episode, it's all action. But the finale was much better paced in the script. It was explained a lot better. So if you go over to Earth Prime, you could find the script for it, and you could read the original finale. It's basically the same, except the Dropper Daddy. He doesn't leave Angie, Remy, and Mallory in the freezer. He takes all of three of them, not just Angie, takes all three of them to the club to meet the supplier rather than keeping them there. So he takes them all with him. And when they get there, the shootout that happens was described a lot more well done than what we saw.
Right,
in the
more
final.
detailed or something.
Yeah, because when I was watching that final gun scene, I'm like, what the heck is going on here?
But at the same time, it's like, he could take all three of them, or there's a chance to pad the script some more, so let's have him just take Angie, and then we can have a whole other scene of Remy and Mallory getting out of the freezer.
Exactly. There you go. Exactly. So the info here, we get this from Matt Utaf from Earth Prime and from Dameron's Year 5 journal that he had going on. And now I got to say now, we got a little mistake here. Now, I'm not sure if this is Dameron's info or Matt Utaf's. They said this is the first episode with a Remy double that's not played by Clinton, but that's not true. That's not true. We've had a Remy double that was played by Clevant and not Clinton in the Alternativeville Horror.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That wasn't Clinton. So we have had a Remy double that was played not by Clinton before. And I'm not sure if there's another one, but I tried looking back at some episodes, and I'm like, I don't think that has one. I don't think that has one. So there's at least the Alternativeville Horror.
I don't know, but they might have more info than us. Maybe Clinton did jump in on a couple of back of the head shots or something in the Alternativeville Horror or something. I don't know.
They usually notate that, like it's even on Earth Prime, they'll have a notation, saying that's, guest starring, da-da-da-da-da. And he's usually listed. And I didn't see that there or on IMDb. So I'm going to say that it was Clevant in the Alternativeville Horror. So there you go. This is the second time we've had a Remy double not played by Clinton.
All right.
Anyway, we move on. So I guess this girl, one of them, is Peckinpah's assistant, and she's the one who had the idea for this Java Jive story. They found sets on the backlot that they could use. Now, I don't know if she had the idea before she found the sets, or she found the sets and then had the idea, but that's where it comes from. This is Peckinpah's assistant with the story idea. Originally, the story had Remy saving Angie in the beginning. So instead of them going and, discovering Angie over the dead body, I guess it was going to happen right when the piano man was getting shot by the gang. So Remy would come in and try and save Angie from getting shot as well. Just a more dramatic opening, actually.
Right.
And in the original script, alcohol was going to be what was prohibited. It wasn't going to be caffeine. Caffeine didn't come out till later on. It was Dial and Dameron who thought, well, you know what? If we do prohibition, alcohol, that's like exactly like our world. If we really want an alt world, let's outlaw something else. Let's outlaw caffeine, because then you definitely know it's an alternate world. So that didn't come till later on down the line.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And then the Sliders eventually were going to try to rescue Angie, who was kidnapped, but they would fail to rescue her, but they would manage to bring down the gangsters. And I didn't quite understand how that all worked out, but that was the original idea that they were going to do. And it was supposed to be a much bigger musical event to showcase Remy and his music and his singing, but they didn't have the budget to actually, invest in all the music that they actually wanted to have. So there was supposed to be a lot more music, but they were supposedly saving money for the epic finale that, of course, never happened.
Yeah. And we'll get into what we do get in that musical interlude. Yeah. Okay. So do we have time to get in a quick impression?
Let's take a look here. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Cue the music.
Kermit the Frog approaches a bar. Hey, Barky, scotch and soda. Bobcat Goldthwait turns around. Stop sampling the merchandise, Alfalfa.
I would if I could. There's not much hoosh to speak of back here. Just about 300 different kinds of coffee.
Heck, and Alan Rickman walk in. Okay, it makes sense why you would make a few bucks here, but why do we have to?
Why can't we just hit the ATM machines like we always do? I mean, I'm a PhD, for crying out loud.
Come on, guys, it's just for tonight. Angie just lost her boyfriend and people are just walking out on her. I mean, haven't you ever heard? The show must go on. Yay! And see. I tried my best to figure out a way to work the Muppet Show into that, but I was like, I didn't want to be blatant, The
Muppet Show must go on.
I know, I didn't want to do that.
Such a pretty face. Such a pretty voice. Let's play it this way. your voice for that info.
I told you I don't know about any contact.
You know how this stuff cleans pipes? It burns everything away. And it'll do the same for your vocal cords. Harrell Walker was an undercover cop. And you were with him all the time. You had to know!
I tell you, I didn't know.
Trust me, sister. He was about to bring you and me both down. Now give me that information, or I'm gonna rip your club apart. And I'm gonna burn it down!
I swear to you, I don't know. If I had it, I'd give it to you. Why would I hold out?
I got a meeting downtown. We'll finish this off later. But you remember what I said? Your voice for that info.
All right, so let's get into our discussion of the Java Jive.
Okay.
All right, so we start with an exterior of the Chandler Hotel. The Hippo Club. Yeah, very obviously the Chandler Hotel exterior with just a new sign thrown up in front of it. And I don't think, it's like you said, like they must have used like a different set for the interiors because of Dameron's or Peckinpah's assistant, who came up with this idea because they had these sets available. So so at least they didn't use the interior sets, but that was the Chandler facade out the front for sure, I think. And we see this man in his 50s clothes. This is Harrell, and he folds up this piece of paper and he puts it in a song book next to a song called the Java Jive. And then this girl walks in, Angie. And she's also dressed 50s style.
Is it 50s? Because like Prohibition was in the 20s, so I just assumed it was more because the hairstyles are more 20s that the girls are wearing.
Oh, it's just that era, I guess,
right,
of gangsters and whatnot. So you're right. I guess 20s even.
Right. Yeah.
And they share a bit of a passionate kiss.
Yes.
And then his cell phone rings.
Right.
And he has to leave.
Yeah.
So, I kind of like this, this era of style mixed with modern and things like, this is classic Sliders, I'm getting them classic feels.
Yes.
But I don't know. I kind of, I really did like this opening and, he's on the phone, he has to leave. And in the back alley, he meets up with Rembrandt.
Right.
Who promptly murders him.
Right, which he call him Brownie, which at first I was like, that's kind of racist. But then like, oh wait, his last name is Brown. Okay, we'll go with it. Yeah.
That's kind of racist.
I'm like, is he Whitey then? All right.
All right, Whitey. That would be so funny if he called him Brownie.
I know.
And then Remy called him Whitey back. Oh, yeah. Man. So, he's Brownie in this one. It's a good way to sort of differentiate the two Rembrandts. So I like that. And, he's obviously looking for something, and it's probably the piece of paper that he folded into that music book there, because he's checking his pockets and everything after he murders him, and he can't find anything, so he takes off. And then, of course, the Sliders arrive. And they hear Angie screams, and so they run over, and there she is over Harrell's dead body. As soon as, because, Remy's there, and he's comforting her, and he's like, oh, I'll take her inside. She should probably lay down or something. And then the cops show up, and they are, talking with Mallory and Diana and Maggie. And I'm like, it's definitely not a coincidence that, Remy is not in this scene. These cops have to know who the Remy of this world is.
Right.
So it's awfully convenient that Remy isn't there when the cops show up.
Right.
So, it's a bit of a plot contrivance, but, I just thought it was very obvious, during that scene that they would know who Remy is. And, of course, it's going to come out that Brownie is a police officer, so.
I didn't even think, when I was watching it, I didn't even think about that, until later. I'm like, oh, that's why they had to, get him out of there. But I didn't really get why the cop, Wells, why he didn't seem, too concerned about the murder. Like, I didn't understand why he did, because to me, I thought that he was going to be like the bad guy or like the bad cop, because he was like, yeah, okay, we'll take your statements, whatever, you know. Like, I didn't understand why he was not concerned.
Yeah, you're right, because it does, you know, it comes out later that he is actually the good cop.
Yeah, so he should be concerned. He should be very concerned. That's why I was thrown off by that.
And what did you think that they gave him the name Wells, as in Wade?
Oh my God, I didn't even think about that.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't even think. This, let me tell you, I'm going to say it. I said my version of NyQuil. You know, I meant like this episode, I could put this episode on and just easily fall asleep right away. You know, it just lulls me into a nice somber sleep. I did not even pick up on the whole fact that his name was Wells. I can't imagine that's anything to do with Wade at all. You know, like even like behind the scenes, like I know they didn't really like her, but I can't imagine that's why they named this guy after her. I think it was just, it just happened that way.
Yeah, I know. I just sort of all the names they could give him. Why go with the surname of someone who used to be a very prominent character of the show?
Oh yeah,
they could have chosen anything, you know.
They could have. Yeah, I didn't even think about it.
Anyway, we got Remy and Angie. Of course, they're getting a bit closer, and you know, it turns out that Angie runs this bar, or what they think is a bar, and all her staff are leaving. They're just like, oh, you know, shit's getting too hot around here. We're getting out of here, Angie.
Yeah, seriously.
You know, of course, Remy mentions that, hey, he's a bit of a singer, and I think they did set up at the beginning that they needed to get some cash, you know, let's get some jobs or something, so.
Yeah, you know, they did say that, but I'm like, why do you need? Because they said they're only in this world for 18 hours. That's less than a day, right? So it's like, why don't you just go hang out somewhere, you know, relax. Yeah, maybe you need money. Go find an ATM if you really need money that badly, but you're there for less than a day. Go find a place, just sleep it off, and then slide and get money on the next world. You know, like I've thought about this before. Like on some of these worlds, why do they need a job if they're going to be there for a day? You know, it's like that's going to be hard to get a job, I think, in just one day.
Yeah.
But they managed to always do it. And I'm like, 18 hours. Let's get a job. Why? Explore the world.
Not to mention that it would have to be a job where you would pretty much do one shift and the person would like pay you under the table.
Exactly.
There's no taxes to be paid. There's no like weekly pay structure or anything. It's just, I'm going to work for you for like one shift and you're just going to pay me for that shift and off I go.
Yeah. Send my check to the next dimension, you know? It's like, no. It's like, you don't, no, I don't think so.
It comes back around because, yeah, he does offer up his services as a musician and entertainer because she needs it, and it's good for Remy. I mean, you know, in the first season, we used to see him busking on the street and all that stuff to get some money. I did like that they had the drop line with Diana where she said, why can't we just hit the ATM like we always do? It's like,
right, exactly.
Remy used to do that, and, you know, since, I guess, you know, our good boy Quinn isn't around anymore. Exactly. Remy's kind of just taught them and just said, you know what, just every world we go to, let's just try the ATMs with our ATM cards that we have, because more often than not, we're going to be able to get some free money from our doppelgangers, our doubles.
Exactly.
So, yeah, so it's an interesting setup. And, you know, at the same time, you know, we get Remy singing, and we say it every time. It's always great to see Remy singing.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You know, the great thing about the old history here as well is that Prohibition was caffeine is the big one here, of course. But, you know, of course it was alcohol, it was cigarettes, it was even red meat and stuff. But people want their caffeine. So this speakeasy is all about illegal synthetic caffeine.
Yeah.
And, you know, I like that it wasn't just like, hey, we sell coffee here. It was, we have like this decaf coffee that I guess you can buy because it doesn't have caffeine in it. But we lace all our sugar with caffeine. And if you want to buy that and put it in your coffee, then that's your business. But
exactly,
this packet of sugar is going to cost you $5. So, you know, it's just an interesting way of like how this whole speakeasy worked. You know, I liked it. It was a good explanation.
Yeah, they really built it up. They built the world up. You understood what was going on, why things were the way they were. Although you don't quite understand why the world is still trapped in 1920s style, you know, but you know, it was well done, I thought.
And then we get all this set up with how Brownie is working with the gangsters, and they're the ones who, it's run by this guy, Drop a Daddy. Which,
oh, God.
You didn't like the name Drop a Daddy?
I think, you know what? Not even just the name, but this guy, when he was like trying to scare Angie, like I'm just laughing. You know, I'm like, he's so bad. Like, he's not like, it's like, you know, when someone tries to be mean to you and they try to like act all tough to you and like you just can't take them seriously. I could not take him seriously. Like, just the way he was talking to her, I'm like, okay, Dropper Daddy, you're going to kill me. Okay. Sounds great. See you later.
You know what I actually thought was weird about it was that you're right. Like, he tries to be menacing. And like he like lays, like he talks to you very directly, but he's a very low talker. And sometimes I'm like, can you like just like raise your voice just a little bit, Drop a Daddy, so I can hear what the fuck you're saying right now?
Speak up. Speak up. Are you threatening me? Oh, okay. A little louder. Try it again. Take that line again, please. Okay. Oh, I get it. You're scaring me. Oh, okay. Ooh, I'm so worried.
At the end of the day, yeah, I know why he was there, but I don't know. I think he could have actually cut him, really, because it's this thing about, like, Diana takes, you know, some of the sugar, and it's like, why does she need to have a coffee, like, right now with that sugar?
Exactly.
Like, did she spend the $5 for that as well?
Oh, I doubt
You've been talking about getting money, but anyway, she drinks the coffee. It's a bad batch. That's the whole setup for what's going on here, is that Dropper Daddy has been having trouble sort of perfecting the synthetic caffeine, I guess. And the thing is that Diana is actually she's going to have a meeting with this person, Max, to get, I guess, proper, real caffeine.
Yes.
Laced sugar or something. And that's kind of the whole setup, is that's why Dropper Daddy wants to kidnap her, and it's probably why Harrell died and all that stuff. You know, it's kind of the big setup for the whole thing. I don't know. It's kind of like the last episode where I'm like, I was fine with it. It was an alright setup. It was an alright story. I'm going with it. But at the same time, I'm just like, nah.
Yeah. I kind of, like, I'm watching the episode, and they get to the part where they have the dance, the song that Angie's singing. In the past, it seems like when we had The King Is Back, they would do part of the song, and then they would cut away to something else that was going on. And then this, they kind of did the whole song. By the end, I was like, oh, wait, it's over. Okay. Got it. Okay, what's happening now? Because I just like drifted off because I was just like kind of bored by that song. I mean, it was just so long, and they've never really done that before. They've never done a full-on song. Even when Wade was in the vampire group, it was a shorter song. It was a shorter version of the song, if I remember correctly. And this just felt like they were just trying to pad out time and like, let's do this long, slow song here. And I was like, oh god, it just kind of bored me. The whole episode just kind of bored me. Overall.
Well, not only do they do the whole song, Angie gets like so emotional at one point that Remy has to take over.
Yeah.
And then they do the song, they sing out the whole song. And then, like, everybody leaves the stage, Remy, Angie, everyone, they leave. And these dancers come out.
Yes.
And then it's just music and dances for about another 2 minutes. And I'm just like, what the hell is going on here?
Exactly. I was just very bored with it. I was like, okay, good, nice, whatever. And like, even like, it started off really good, like the episode, and it's a neat idea, but you know, as always happens, it's like they don't realize it fully what they could have done with the whole story. You know, it just it falls flat, and then that's when it's like, oh, okay, whatever. This episode. So, and like I've noticed this a lot when we're reviewing these. Before we start to do the episodes or do the podcast, I'm thinking to myself, wait, what were the 2 episodes again? Like, they don't stick in my head as much as previous seasons. And this was the same with season 4, too. A lot of season 4, I had to think about, all right, wait, the episodes we're doing is what and what? Oh, yeah, okay, that's right, those 2. They don't, like, the first and second season, even most of the third season, I can say, oh, yeah, it was this episode, this episode, this episode. But season 4 and 5, these episodes very rarely stick out in my head as like, oh, yeah, that one. You know, it's just like what one was it? What was it? What is it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay, yeah.
I know what you mean. It's like, you come to, like, we share a Google Doc where we keep all our notes and structure our episodes, right? So it is that thing of, like, when you come to it and you're just like, oh, yeah, that's right, this week I watched Jive.
Right.
Exactly. I remember now. Let's get into it. So, yeah, no, I'm right there with you.
I mean, last week, before we recorded last week, there was one day, and I wasn't near, like, the computer. I couldn't get to the Google Doc for some reason. I was just not able to. I was like, what was the name of the episode we watched? I can't remember what it was. And like, it was killing me. It's like, I got to get to that doc. I got to get back to internet and see, because I could not remember for the life of me. And I was racking my brain. I'm like, it just didn't stick with me. But yeah, that's how this episode is for me. It just doesn't, it's like, it starts off good, has a good idea, but then it just doesn't go anywhere enough for me.
Exactly. Because, Diana takes this bad batch of caffeine. It was so weird, but Angie's just like, let's get it to Harrell's place.
Yeah, why?
Yeah, and I was like, because reasons?
Yeah. Well, I thought maybe she was living with him, but then why not say, let's get back to my place, or something like that.
Exactly.
But no.
And it's because they need to get to Harrell's place to find that Brownie has tossed the place. And then Angie's like, oh, she needs an aspirin or something like that. Like, this bad batch of caffeine has, like, knocked her on her ass. Oh, an aspirin will take care of it. She doesn't even get the aspirin and gets over it anyway. And you're just like, okay, whatever.
Exactly.
And then Remy finds out that Harrell was a police officer because he'd hidden, like, all his information in an ice tray.
Yes.
Which he conveniently had to go and get ice from the freezer as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah. Just plot contrivances. All this information that Harrell had was about the meeting with this Madeline Max at 4 a.m., which I guess was, the time that Angie had set up with Max to meet about getting better caffeine.
Right.
And then they see her getting kidnapped by Dropper Daddy and his men. So that's like, Remy and Mallory have to go and find her. And then Maggie hangs back with Diana because she's not feeling well. He's like, why leave Maggie of all people? Why take Mallory with you?
Yeah, seriously.
It just keeps going on like that.
Yeah, it's just like, things are happening, but they're just not that exciting, It's like the interrogation scene is not that exciting. They get thrown in the freezer only to have her Angie gets taken out, and so Mallory and Remy are stuck in there, and then they get out, and they steal a car or whatever, and it's just like, okay, moving on, next scene,
Maggie and Diana get Wells to come in on it.
Yeah.
And he knows all about, like, the corruption and everything. He's just like, I've been reporting all this to the DA, so I guess we finally have evidence. Let's go and take care of this.
I mean, the plot or the plan to get Dropper Daddy, that was that good plan, but like the shootout was just so boring. It was awful, wasn't it? It was just like, what the heck? The guy coming down the steps and like they shoot him and then he starts, like, his gun goes off and it's shooting the ceiling and like, what?
I laughed so hard at that guy.
I was like, what is he doing?
Shooting the ceiling out so it falls on him.
I mean, I guess, like, maybe you could argue that he got shot, so it was involuntary muscle spasm, and I don't know.
Yeah, but he shot that roof out for like 30 seconds straight. Just this shot of him flailing around, shooting his gun up into the air.
Yeah, it was, I don't know. It was very anticlimactic, that whole scene, the whole gun shoot. I was just like, oh, this is just boring. What's going on? And it was a long shootout. It was not short.
No.
It was a lot of gun shooting and nothing really happening, really.
Yeah, there was that scene with Remy and Mallory in the meat locker freezer.
Right.
As well. Like, that just went on, like, forever. With, like, Angie's just like, oh, can I have your coat? I'm like, wow, exciting dialogue. She needs a coat. And then we cut back and she has the coat. And I was like, whoa, yeah.
Awesome. We resolved that mystery.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. Well, we also get a drop line that at some point in his life, Mallory broke into a meat locker.
Right.
Rebel.
I know. He's a big rebel. I don't know.
The day is saved and Brownie's going to jail and Remy has like a moment with Angie, but you're just like, yeah, we're never going to see.
Exactly.
We see her again, so. Yeah, you're right. It is. It's like, I like the style. I like the era kind of style that it's set in, mixed with the modern, and it was a good idea. But yeah, it just sort of, the padding out episodes, like you said. It's this one's very obviously a padded out episode that just sort of dragged on way too long.
I guess you knew what you were talking about when you said your people could handle this.
That was a trip.
I just want to say thank you.
Anytime we're in town.
That goes double for me.
Are you okay?
Never better.
Gonna have to plug up a few holes, but you shouldn't be closed for long.
No, I'm closing down for good. Besides, raging gun battles are never good for business. Word gets around.
Yeah, well, maybe you should stick to decaf.
I know I will. I think I'm gonna try the music business again. Let somebody else worry about payrolls and musicians who don't show up. What about you guys?
Well, we always have someplace interesting to go.
About 30 seconds. Whoa, time escapes me when I'm shooting up the bad guys. Let's go, guys. Thank you.
Hey, it was a definite kick.
Thank you. Maybe we could work together again sometime.
Shall we get into some messages in time and see what other people thought about it?
Yeah, let's do it.
So back in the back in the day on the old forums, there people were saying it was a lot of the same type of thing we said, but one person was like, "This was the worst episode ever," you know, and like a lot of people were agreeing with it, but then there was a couple who came out and they said, "No, it was lackluster and boring, but you know what? It wasn't the worst ever." And then they started talking about some of the worst episodes that they have seen so far.
Did Worm Crap come up?
Well, of course, yeah. You know. So it's like, there are worse than this, you know. This was just more boring, you know.
Yeah.
So.
I want to stress that neither of these are Worm Crap. Neither of them.
Definitely not Worm Crap.
Yeah,
no.
but they weren't absolutely amazing or astonishing.
Exactly. Some people say it just didn't feel like Sliders to them. It felt like a whole nother show. They didn't like the wigs that the women were wearing. Like, they're such stupid wigs. Why do they have to wear wigs? They could just use their normal hair, you know? It's like, that wouldn't be out of place, really. They said Diana needs to be less earnest. She's coming off as too, like, goody-goody, I guess. But but a lot of people were really liking Mallory. Like I've said many times already, I actually like the character too. I don't think they're using him to the best of what they could do with the character, but you know, I like Mallory now. So yeah, in general, just you know, this episode was not loved by everybody back then. So it's kind of like us, you know, we like the idea and everything, but it's like, so. Now the other one, the first episode, the current affair, they were saying that Clavon just seems kind of bored and wooden lately. Like he's not really, doesn't seem like he's really giving it to it in this.
He didn't have a lot to do in a current affair, really, did he?
Yeah. So he said he's just like really being background lately, and you know, and they mentioned all the Sliders kind of seem tired, like they're not really into it, which I don't know, maybe they are getting a little bored with it.
I thought it was actually kind of funny at the beginning where Clavon's like giving it to Maggie.
Right.
I thought that was kind of funny, you know, he's making jokes with her, but
exactly.
Beyond that, like, he didn't really have a lot to do in the episode.
Anyway, so. One person said, "Well, I'm glad that Maggie spends a lot more time being clothed now. She's less boob of the week style, but the whole trailer park trash thing was over the top bad," is what they said. Actually, we didn't even mention that. We skipped right over that whole trailer park thing. I was like, you know what? Maggie right now is like doing her own quick impression right there. It's such a bad, bad accent, the bad stereotype. We could get her on this show and she could do quick impressions with us like nobody's business, I think.
I could agree with that. Yeah. They're not oogling her in every episode anymore, which is a good thing.
Yeah. But that trailer park thing, it was just so typical of like a trailer park thing. And I was like, yeah, it's real. Yeah. That's why
it was like, funny though. I like that. I thought it was just a good bit of humor.
It was definitely humor. It was definitely humor. But I was just like, that's something that the Hick would do. You know, they're like, "I told you to put that cat down." You know, it's like the Hick and Trailer Park Trash Maggie need to get together. I think, you know,
in this world, maybe they were.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so they were saying this one person said, you know, I know there are good writers out there who could fix Sliders, but they're probably not going to be given the chance because it seems like Sci-Fi Channel has given up on the show, and as we know, they have. They basically just said, "Yeah, we're done."
Yeah.
Last season, we don't care. Whatever. Finish out the season. It's sad, but, you know, that's other people. That's what they're thinking. They said they liked that it was inspired by world events and it wasn't another movie ripoff because they said something like it feels like this could have been like an earlier episode of Sliders, you know, in one of the earlier seasons, and it would have been good because it wouldn't be like a typical movie ripoff like we had in season 3.
Exactly. Just ripped from the headlines and throw it into an alt reality.
They said when Maggie was grabbed by the president's goons, why didn't she use her military training to fight? You know, because she is a fighter, you know, she has, you know, and she's shown that off many times, but no, she just gets dragged away by these two guys. And they said, and furthermore, why didn't those goons just kill Maggie straight away when they saw she was still alive? Instead, they take her to the president. You know, why not take her back to the room, shoot her, and then it's all done? No, let's take her back to the president. Do you still want us to kill her, boss? You know, it's like, come on, really?
Yeah.
And then a lot of people, like iReactions, Ibrahim was saying, how did the Sliders get into the press conference with a little device with a countdown going down to 0? You don't think they would have been like screened? It's like, what's this? Oh, don't worry about that. Okay.
They have press passes, so
yeah, exactly.
No need to pat them down.
No. So, good point.
All right, so next week's episodes are the return of Maggie Beckett and Easy Slider. So, do we want to go with this? Take a guess at what we think these episodes are about?
Yeah, let's see. Now, Return of Maggie Beckett. Now, this makes me think about the one where we had that Maggie that lied and took over Maggie's spot into that world, the no technology world or whatever. That's what I was thinking about. I mean, I doubt that they're going to do that because continuity is not like a huge thing with Sliders, so I can't see that. But yeah, that's when I saw Return of Maggie Beckett, I was thinking something like that with her.
Go back to that world again or something.
Back to that world or something with a Maggie Beckett that's like more militaristic, you know, like we had in season 3, you know, like that type of Maggie. Like, is there going to be a return of that, a double or something of her? Because our Maggie is definitely different these days.
Yeah, I'm going to venture a guess and say it's got to have something to do with an evil double of Maggie.
Right.
They may or may not mistake her for our Maggie. I don't know. That's what I'm going with.
Easy Slider, like, obviously this must be like a parody of like Easy Rider.
Yeah.
Which I'm ashamed to say I've not seen, you know, but like I assume, I don't know, it has to do with motorcycles.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Motorcycles or cars, I don't know.
Maybe we have, like, you know, in that one episode, the Native Americans on the motorcycles again or something.
They have to race to get as many cars as they can.
There you go.
Through the vortex before we go, hey, haven't you exceeded the capacity of the vortex by now?
There we go. Yeah, I don't know. That's my best guess for this Easy Slider. I don't know.
Well, I guess we'll find out next week.
We will. All right. That is it for this episode of the Rewatch Podcast. Keep up with listener interaction by liking our Facebook page at facebook.com/rewatchpodcast and follow the show on Twitter at rewatchpod. And you can visit our webpage at rewatchpodcast.podomatic.com, which has some of our favorite links there, such as dimensionofcontinuity.com, earthprime.com, and the active forum over at sliders.tv.
And as always, you can write us an email or record a voice message and send it to the rewatchpodcast@gmail.com. Also, if you've enjoyed the show, please consider giving us a rate and review on iTunes, always very helpful. And you can help support the great work we do here at the Rewatch Podcast by heading over to patreon.com/rewatchpodcast and making a monthly contribution as low as $1. And every last dollar counts. So anything you could do to help, we'd very much appreciate it. All right, so thank you for joining me again, Tom.
Of course.
And I will just say until next time, I did not have homicidal relations with that woman.
We gotta slide.
The Rewatch Podcast is not associated with NBC Universal, St. Clair Entertainment, Fox, or Sci-Fi Channel. The use of any and all copyrighted material is only for parody, news analysis, critique, or educational purposes, as provided in United States Code, Title 17, aka Fair Use. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com.
Copyright 2016, The Rewatch Podcast.
Sliders.
Hi, Rewatch Podcast listeners. I'm Corey.
I'm Tom.
And I'm Nathan.
First off, let me say that we have all had a blast doing the Rewatch Podcast. Every week, we put out another episode for free for you. And although we enjoy these discussions with each other, we truly do this for you guys out there in podcast land.
That's right, Corey. But we are here today to tell you about Patreon. Every week, there are costs involved in podcasting about film and television, including hosting and bandwidth charges, our own personal internet usage, and film or show rentals and purchases. So, we're asking you to become a Patreon supporter.
If you can afford as little as $1 to throw our way per month, it would really help us keep the lights on. And if you want to send $100 our way every month, we wouldn't turn that down either. But it's your choice, and we appreciate the support you bring.
As always, we strive to bring you the best quality shows we can create, and we hope that you enjoy them. So head on over to patreon.com/rewatchpodcast to become one of our patrons and show your support for the Rewatch Podcast.
And if we get enough patrons, we may even be able to produce exclusive content just for the supporters in the form of simply getting episodes before the main feed release, or even bonus film discussion episodes as a thank you for your support. The website again is patreon.com/rewatchpodcast.
Thanks, everyone.